What's going on, everyone? This is Sherry, and you are tuned into She Said What She Said, podcast where we interview badass women in the sports world and beyond. I'm a couple of minutes late because I'm trying to figure out how to do Instagram Live, and I think I figured it out. So, pretty excited. That's what the kids use these days. So, as a grown up woman, I think I might have figured it out, guys. But like, let's not over celebrate too much here. But tonight we have a great guest because she has been on here a million times. Is that like a normal number? I think she was like my third guest officially, and then she's been on a bunch of other times. But before, and she also has some big news. I mean, people that know her know this, but it's big. But before we bring out Miss Emma, we are going to bring out my co-host. And this girl will make you say, "Hey, girl, damn you, slay. That's my bae. Let's bring in Faye." Hi.
Hello. You're so cute. I love
Yeah,
them.
I just said a bunch of words and they all like stream together. That's like literally what we're on right now. It's just like,
It works. It works. Well,
I'm
thank
gonna
you.
I'm gonna have to like find another word or two that like rhymes with. I'm gonna have to bring back Lachey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other.
Yeah.
I ditched Lachey for a bit, didn't I?
And you did. And I haven't lashade for a bit, but I need to get back into that because I'm missing it. And it's just, I haven't been getting to the gym. I haven't been getting to the gym. No, but I watch all your guys' videos and Kirsten is like killing it. And I'm like, oh, I need to get back in it.
She's a Lachey queen. I mean, she hit something ridiculous the other day. Was it 7 feet, 8 feet, something I can't do.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
I think my furthest is 6.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Very cool. And I did want to let you know that according to my phone right now, it is working on Instagram Live. So you did it.
Oh my God, I did it. Yay. I have figured it out. Everything. And I actually even wore our shirt today.
Oh my God, I didn't know we had shirts. I was going to ask you about that.
I'm going to have to get you one.
I know. If we have tank tops, I do tank tops because I'm not a big t-shirt person. I don't like No, I know. I turn all my t-shirts into blankets actually. So like my mom makes these amazing t-shirt blankets where you just take t-shirts and then she makes these really great blankets. So I end up taking all my t-shirts and putting them on there because I just don't wear them. But I do love me a good tank top.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I am a t-shirt queen. Like half of my closet is t-shirts. And
really?
Yeah. I love it. Love it.
Funny.
I absolutely love it.
I want to introduce, I have him today, my little special buddy. This is Chippy.
Oh, hi, buddy.
He's blind and pretty much deaf, but and he's grousing a little bit, but he used to love being in front of the camera. Poor guy doesn't really even know anything.
Doesn't know where the camera is anymore.
He doesn't. He's like, "Hi, Mom." So he's just going to sit here and be some moral support and sleep next to us. So I want to introduce you to Chippy. And
hello, buddy. He's like,
he barely can hear me when I walk like right next to him, but he's a trooper. He still has fun. Chippy, you got to move. Anyways, so big race over the weekend.
Yes. Opening race of the season, the longer distance, the 10K, not the 5K. I don't do like the super
the video
the long ones. Yeah. I'm gonna have to figure out Instagram. I'll figure it out one day.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
But yeah, for my first race of the season, I got my silver medal.
Oh yes.
So, yes. So second place in my age group, 7th woman overall. Felt a little rusty on some of it. I'm like, ooh, it's been a minute. So, getting back into the swing of things.
That's cool.
Literally.
Gotta start somewhere.
Exactly. So yeah, good place. See, training's going well. Just got to amp it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear ya. So do you do like regular 5Ks and stuff like that, or not really?
No, absolutely not. I find doing a regular race boring as hell. So if I'm not jumping over things or, crawling on things, like it's just boring.
What's the point? I get
it. Exactly. No, I do enough races. I don't need to add to the style. But so our guest is joining us via the vehicle because she has been in traffic. Her estimated time home was a little bit ago, and now it's a lot from now. But that's okay because
she's
as long
here.
as she's safe, Emma, be safe while you're in the car. You're probably just going traffic to traffic. But yeah, so tonight we're doing a women's soccer preview. The NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, their season starts this week. There was just Concacaf.
Yeah, I just it's like Concacaf or Concacaf or something. I'm like
could you make a harder title to say? The U.S. women's team did just win a kind of ugly a round of that one, and then we have Paris this year for the Olympics. The U.S. came out with bronze last Olympic go round, so we're going to talk to see where the U.S. needs to be.
Yeah, and also Amazon picked them up as like their biggest sponsor. So Amazon Prime, I did read that. Yeah, so Amazon is like, and this year is the networks that the soccer team is going to be on. So basically, we can pretty much watch women's soccer on more channels than like any other sport.
Really?
So it's like all the ESPNs, Amazon Prime is going to stream it. We've got there's 12 different channels I think that NW is going to be on. So
that's awesome.
That's pretty great.
That's awesome. Well, without further ado, let me bring in my guest, one of my bestest friends, Miss Emma V. Not pronouncing that last name. Hey, girl.
Hi.
I'm here.
Please drive safely. Wait, okay, can I try to pronounce? Because I love your last name. Vanderheyden?
Yes. Well, it's actually Hayden, but
Hayden. Okay.
Whatever you can get.
Whatever you want is close enough. All right. Well, nice to meet you.
So Emma, you've gained a little weight since you've last been on the show.
Thanks, Sharon.
What an entrance.
But yes, we have, because we got baby Emma coming soon. Well, not really, it's a boy, so baby Kai. We'll say baby Torrance. Okay, we'll give him the credit. That's fine. But yeah, so.
Congratulations.
Much rounder face than I was last time I was here.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely, filled out a bit. I was like, she has some big news. So I was the very first person Emma told about her pregnancy too, even before her significant other, her fiance. So I've known the whole time, and I kept it a secret,
which is very impressive.
Thank you. And then for the gender reveal, I got the card from the doctor that said what it was, and I also kept that a secret too, man.
You had great power. You really did. And she tortured me with that power for a while, but it was fine.
Yeah, I just sent her pictures of stuff that was blue and stuff that was pink. And then I was like, hey, I wore the color of the gender of your baby today. And she was like, what did you wear? And I took a picture of a pink sweatshirt and a blue sweatshirt, put them perfectly, folded everything so it's equal. And I wore one of these.
Yeah, she was evil.
Oh, you are ruthless.
Yeah, or I'll like do the cards so you can't quite see. Yeah, so I am kind of ruthless. But I like cleaned up because they had the little powder packs where you hit them and it explodes. I like cleaned up everything so there would be no the blue that could be found. I went in deep, man. I was like wrap them up nicely.
On it. You're the good friend to give the news to.
I mean, can you imagine if I showed up to your brunch with like the packets and one of them accidentally exploded?
Oh, spoiler alert.
But like that was the decoy.
Yeah. Pay no attention to the blue behind the screen.
No, there's nothing here, guys. But yeah, so Emma's preggers. She's gonna have a Star Wars baby. She's gonna have a baby on May 4th.
Nice. Maybe.
Her due date is, what's your due date?
May 16th. So we'll see.
Ooh, Sherry thinks it's coming early.
See, I would put so much money on that baby is not making it to the 16th.
Just due to her size?
I'm all baby. I carry the baby all in front of me. Like the baby, none of this baby actually fits into my pelvis. So she's like, bitch, you're big as hell. The baby's coming early. I'm like, I know, but we'll see.
The baby's gonna put like an arm through like your stomach. Like, I'm coming out this way.
Yeah. He's very active lately. Like he beats me up. So
good job, Kai. Yeah,
my boy students, they're like, Miss V, what does it feel like when the baby like kicks? I'm like, okay, let me put it in boy terms. It feels like there's a creature gremlin inside of you trying to get out. That is what it feels like. It's just grabbing and punching you from the inside out. And they're like, whoa.
Show them that part in Alien when it like starts to come out the stomach.
That's what I told her to watch to get ready for childbirth. I was like, oh, you haven't seen Alien? That's how you get ready for childbirth. I'm a great friend.
Yeah, you make this so easy. I'm glad I never want to get pregnant. Having you in my life would make it terrible.
No, it's wonderful. I feel so much joy.
That's great.
Yeah, we're having her baby shower next weekend.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and I'm in charge of desserts, so it's going to be delicious.
Oh, yay.
Sure, you had about 50% of the power in that one also.
Honestly, that's the most important part of any,
any party.
But I did give Emma the choice of her cake of what flavor, and she did pick the funfetti cake. I was like, yes, like the bakery by me, like legit has a funfetti option. I was like, yes,
perfect.
But yes, we are not here to talk about motherhood yet. Don't worry. We'll get you on once you've done the motherhood thing and the birth thing. We won't go live for your birth.
Maybe. I mean, if it's on a Wednesday, we might.
True. Like, hey guys.
Surprise.
Just coming here. No, we are here to talk about Emma's favorite thing in the world. Emma, what is your favorite thing besides me and Torrance?
Football. Or soccer, I guess. Soccer, yes. So I'm going to do my best to sound like an expert. So.
Did you, so for me, I don't know you. So did you play, can you give us a little bit of background on what makes you such an expert?
Yeah, for sure. So soccer is my lifelong sport, my first love. I played a lot of sports growing up, started playing when I was 6 years old, played all the way through college for 4 years, and now I coach youth elite soccer, which is why I'm late today, because it was my last practice before maternity leave, so all my players were crying and all that, so that was fun.
Aww.
But yeah, and then so I'm just ex-player turned coach turned fan, and it's just it's my nostalgia part of my life. I love watching the U.S. women's team. I love watching the domestic league develop because, like, when I was coming out of college, it was in and out and crashing and folding and restarting back up. Like, when I came out of college, the Chicago Red Stars had open tryouts. That's how bad it was. So, see all of the progression that's, like, happening over the years. Because I could have had the opportunity, but I chickened out. I had the thought of trying out, but I chickened out. So, yeah. So I'm always posting stuff all the time, and Sherry's like liking it and sharing it, and she's like, "Come talk about it." I'm like, "Okay, cool, let's do it."
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, one thing too, when you talk about the women's team folding and unfolding and all of this stuff, I can't remember which book it was. I read a lot of books, and I like to read stuff about sports stuff, but the original women's teams, they were set up incorrectly. They were kind of set up to be like profit generators, but like Major League Soccer, a lot of the clubs still are not profitable. Like that's how much of a commitment men's soccer was to the U.S. when they created Major League Soccer. Like, they just created a league that they did not basically expect to be profitable for 15, 20 years. And they were trying to create women's leagues and have them be profitable in 2 or 3 years. That's not how you create anything. And so it was really set up to fail from the beginning. And so now it's like there's finally, like Emma was saying, there is some actual stability happening, in this national league, which feeds into our national team and this and that. So it took them a little bit of time. But yeah, we finally got over that hurdle to actually have a league.
25 years worth of time.
Yes.
This year, I mean, what is it, like WNBA took like 2 decades also to like really get going. Like, it just is what it is with women's sports in general. And then on top of that, it's a sport that half of America doesn't even appreciate, but
Right.
the rest of the world with it, so it's like, it's a double-edged sword, You got soccer and then, women? Oh, no, we're not going to watch that.
And it's not even like, when you think of, take like Major League Baseball. When Major League Baseball first came out, players were not it was not like your full-time job, right? For national football, any of these sports. My grandpa had the opportunity to play for the Cardinals, but they ended up, going to the real world, right? And getting a real job because you did not just go and play Major League Baseball. Like, that was not a money maker. So, when you put that today's of how long it took the men's leagues to grow to where they are now, and then you create a women's league and then you try to compare it right away. It's like, well, football, basketball, baseball, probably hockey, these took decades for them to actually be the places where they are full-time jobs for the men, and not just a full-time job, but like a money-making endeavor. I think they say that there's actually no video footage of the first Super Bowl because no one really thought it was going to be a big deal.
That's fair. Well, the way that ticket prices are in so many sports, I would be surprised that they weren't making money. They put a lot of money in, and they charge a lot of money for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emma, the tournament that just happened for the women's national team, how do you pronounce it? Is that
the federation that the United States belongs to is Concacaf.
Concacaf.
Very long abbreviation that stands for the Confederation of North, Central America, and Caribbean Athletic Federations, or whatever.
Wow.
So every region in the world has a very oddly abbreviated federation. So don't ask me what any of them are called because I don't know. But the United States belongs to that one. So in all those tournaments, our opponents are either Canada, Mexico, the many nations in Central America, and then the Caribbean nations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The tournaments, soccer is confusing to Americans because it's all over the place. So, like, we just played in the first inaugural Women's Gold Cup.
Mm-hmm.
So when it puts on a tournament, it's usually a qualifier. So because each regional federation is allowed to send, depending on the tournament and how many teams are in the total tournament, is allowed to send either 2 teams or 8 teams to said larger world tournament. So, like, obviously the World Cup has 40 teams, right? So each federation can send like 4 teams or whatever, you know. And then for the Olympics example, Olympics is only a 12-nation competition. So Concacaf, as being one of the bigger bodies, was allowed to send 2 teams.
Okay.
So the Gold Cup is interesting because we're in a year where we're not qualifying for anything. We're in a year where there's a major tournament happening. So the qualification has already taken place. So this inaugural Gold Cup was literally just a tournament for experience.
Oh, okay.
When it's not necessarily a qualifying tournament, they invite additional teams from like South America. So that's why you saw Brazil in the final and you saw Argentina in the tournament, because they're not in our federation. But again, because we weren't qualifying for anything, we weren't fighting for a spot, they invited additional competition to make it a bigger tournament.
Oh, okay.
So that's that. And so like when you think about like Olympics, we actually qualified for the Olympics in 2022. So back in 2022, Concacaf hosted the Women's Championship, and that was only teams from our northern side of the hemisphere. And that tournament actually, because there was so many competitions coming up, there was the World Cup, immediately following that is the Olympics coming, you know. So they used that as a qualifier for 2 tournaments. So we could send more. We could send, I think, what did we send? Like 4 teams, I want to say, to the World Cup, and then we were allowed to send 2 teams to the Olympics. So the winner of the Women's Championship in 2022 was obviously automatically qualified for both tournaments. The runner-up was qualified for the World Cup, and then they had to go into a playoff with the 3rd and 4th place team that get the remaining World Cup spots later on. So it's very confusing. So that's another reason why I feel like Americans are just like, what is happening? You know, because there's like tournaments and national teams and leagues, and then there's tournaments within the domestic leagues, and it's a lot. And to this day, I'm still learning, you know, so like, because we keep trying to change and better ourselves to compete against the world. But yeah, so the Gold Cup really kind of just meant bragging rights this year. But it's kind of cool because it's the first tournament. We won it. We found our way. We struggled last year in the World Cup. It seemed that we got our swagger back in this tournament because we did play some of the top teams in the world, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's kind of a brief Cliff Notes version of how those CONCACAF tournaments kind of run.
Okay. So did you watch the U.S.-Canada game? Because I know there was some controversy to it. I'm curious, did you actually watch it or just hear about it?
That was, oh my God. Did you watch that at all?
I saw some of the highlights after.
Okay. Yeah, so first of all, it was pouring rain all day, right? And they had a doubleheader on that field. They had all the playoffs at Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego. So they already went through one whole game earlier that day, and then it was still pouring to the point where, like, the field actually was super unplayable, and CONCACAF should have called it. They should have postponed it, but, you know, they're on a strict schedule and whatnot. So the asshole, whoever was standing behind the scenes, was like, no, play on, risking all the injuries going into the Olympics. Like, these are, like, your top 2 teams going into the Olympics.
Yeah. Oh, lost your volume, Emma.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so, like, it was, like, real questionable because, like, these are your 2 teams that you are sending into the Olympics to represent you. you're going to force them to play in this unplayable, dangerous situation. But it was what it was. The ref tried to fight it. Coach tried to fight it, whatever. So they wanted to play it on. It was very, very ugly. Like, it was kind of like, if you imagine, like, 5-year-old soccer. Like, you would see really great balls played, but then the ball would get stuck in the water and you kind of run past it. So it was like, it was really ugly. And then it kind of cleared up in the second half. But, you know, they just kind of found a way, like, because the field drainage was overrun. It couldn't drain fast enough, and you could see that. But the United States was able to pull through somehow, some way.
On penalty kicks.
Yeah, well, they pulled ahead right before half, and then Canada came back and got a late goal. Or I'm trying to remember exactly how it worked out. I watched like a ton of games, but yeah, they ended up like winning last second, and it ended up being epic PK shootout, right? Like, it ended up being an epic game. But that whole first half, we could just erase that whole first half. Like, but so PK shootout. So this is like deja vu because, well, we were eliminated from the World Cup in a PK shootout of a first VR call where they said we didn't make a save and we think our goalie saved it. It like literally it went down to a millimeter of a distance. So that was kind of the crash and burn of the United States. And so there's a lot to prove, especially going into that. And with Canada being the reigning Olympic champions, we got to shut them down. So it ended up being Alyssa Nayer's game. And if anyone knows who Alyssa Nayer is, she is our veteran goalkeeper who had an awful year last year in the domestic league. She did go to Penn State. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. So she was actually celebrating her 101st cap. And so if you don't know what a cap means, it means international appearance for your country. So it was her 101st game. She had a lot to prove. She was the worst goalkeeper in the NWSL last year, but she's our starting goalkeeper on the national team. So that also is because Chicago Red Stars kind of sucked last year, so it's really not her fault. But like she had some confidence issues, right? Especially with getting the World Cup, whatever. So she ended up making 3 PK saves, and then lined up and scored one herself. So she is the definition of the most humblest player you'll ever see. She puts the team on her back. Like, literally, she was like, yo, it's cool, I got this. Like, it was epic.
She's done penalty kicks in prior, like, international competitions too, hasn't she? She's like one of the only goalkeepers that does that.
Yeah, so she did it for the first time in the World Cup. A lot of goalkeepers don't do that. Or
that's where I saw it, yep.
Like, because, like, if it's still tied after 5 players shoot, then you add more. So sometimes goalkeepers will be like the extended players. But yeah, she stood up and scored. That was a big thing. She scored in that PK shootout in the World Cup, but then ended up missing that last save by a millimeter, you know, and heartbreak, instant crushed. But yeah, so I think going into the Olympics is really questionable of who the roster is going to be. And I think Alyssa Nayer definitely proved that it is still her team. So even at, like, I think, what is she, like 34? So it's still her team. So
yeah, I think she came in right after I left Penn State. So yeah. So yeah. I'm old. Like that ripe old age of 34. It's like, oh man, she's so.
But she's still the Chicago Red Stars, so yay.
So regular season starts tomorrow or this weekend?
So the first regular season match starts Saturday.
That's right. It is the 16th. Mm-hmm.
There is a game on the 15th, but it's not a season match. It's a tournament game.
Oh.
Which is into the confusion of what the fuck is a soccer season, right? So the domestic leagues, men's and women's, have started to follow the European models, because usually our teams only have, like their 12, 16, whatever season game schedule, and then that's it. And while overseas, everyone is getting so good because everyone has the regular season, and then they have tournaments within their season, and then they go into their playoffs, and et cetera, right? So what NWSL has started in the last 2 or 3 years was they added the Challenge Cup, which is a season-long tournament. In the past, those Challenge Cup games happened on Wednesday nights, and then regular league games were Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so they're kicking off the Challenge Cup on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it? It is San Diego. I want to say, I have my notes on my computer, but of course I'm not on my computer. It's San Diego versus Gotham, the reigning champions of the league.
Mm-hmm.
So the Challenge Cup schedule is not released yet. They just have this one game. I think they just wanted a way to let the champions kind of kick it off with a bang against one of the other powerhouse teams. So we have the Challenge Cup opening game Friday, and then we have the other league opening games Saturday and Sunday. Perfect. So I know one talk for Saturday is the Kansas City game, because they are playing at the brand new stadium, and it is the first stadium ever built strictly for women's soccer.
Nice.
Well, that's because Patrick Mahomes' wife did that, right? Isn't she an owner of that team?
The Mahomes are partial to the team. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for our, if you don't know who Emma is, great friend of the podcast, one of my best friends, former college soccer player and resident soccer expert for the whole Chicago Clubhouse Podcast Network. You are our soccer girl. And Emma, if you need to transfer to your house for a second to get to your computer, that's fine.
My dogs are gonna bark, so can we have this conversation in 2 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, I'll be right back.
Awesome. I'll see you in a sec.
Yeah, she seems like she definitely knows a lot. And it's fun to talk to her because she does know so much, but she so loves it. She's so psyched about it.
And that's the thing. I mean, when she said that that's her passion.
Pro soccer.
Yeah. So we have the Women's National League starts this week. Opening games are this weekend. We just had the international women's team just playing a cup finished over last weekend. And then with Paris coming up this year, it is a pretty big year for women's soccer.
The
U.S. team did not win the last Olympics, and they did not win the last World Cup. So we're definitely in kind of a crossroads for the U.S. We need to reassert our domination.
Yes.
And so that's where, Phaedra, you never watched soccer? Do you watch it all for Olympics or anything like
that? Yes, I do. I mean, I watch soccer when it comes to the World Cup, the cups.
Yeah.
Because I like going out, watching it with all, everyone for their country. And I like that whole camaraderie and stuff. But I do have, growing up, where I worked out of high school or in high school, I guess, the son, my boss and his son, they played soccer. And I used to go watch men's soccer. I have a huge respect for it. And when I do watch it, it's just, I sit there and I'm just in awe because it's just nonstop. It's one of those sports where I've watched, men and women train for it. And it's just, I'm like, oh my God, it's just so much. So I respect it a lot. I don't watch it as much, but if it's on and I'm with people that want to watch it, I'll watch it. But I don't necessarily, I think I'm like that with a lot of sports. I prefer to watch it with people.
No, same. I really only watch football and track dolo on a regular. But I will say when it comes to soccer, I'm much more of a women's soccer fan than I am a men's soccer fan. I mean,
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of the issues with soccer. I think that, you do see a little bit more, tend to see more scoring in women's, maybe a bit more. We can ask Emma about that. But like women, like men, you'll see them kind of flopping. You'll see them, if they have like a 1 point lead, they'll, just pass it a zillion times. And I feel like women tend to like go for it a little bit more.
I think in women's sport in general, we just get like nitty gritty, and we're kind of just like elbows and kick. Like we do all this, like I say exactly. The word chatty, but we get like in it. We're like so. I don't know. Women just can be.
Exactly. No, Emma's coming back, Frank. She was in the car. She got stuck at practice because all of her players wanted to say bye to her before her maternity leave starts. So she'll be hanging on. Coming back in a second. We were just talking about the Concacaf.
Concacaf, yeah.
And I've seen that in track before because that is and I'm like, what is this? This is guys super conservative with the league. Yeah, it's just like you don't really see that in any other sport but soccer, and it's just weird. Like, just keep playing, man. Like, just score 15 times. Like, make it a little bit more exciting. I don't know. And it's also like the U.S. men aren't competitive on the national level. Like, for the last World Cup, I mean, people were celebrating that they tied England 0-0. I'm like, that's what we're celebrating. Yeah. So, right. Well, Emma's back. Emma, we're talking trash about men's soccer and how boring it is, and how guys get super conservative with the league, and how the U.S. men, people were celebrating a whopping 0-0 against England.
Hey, that's an accomplishment. Okay.
No, whatever. It's boring as hell for the average spectator.
Exactly, because we don't understand it. But when you do understand it, you're like, wow, that was a good game. Like
sure, but like, come on. But no, the general consensus is women's soccer is way more exciting than men's soccer. Boys smell, girls rule. Yay.
That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get back to our National Women's Soccer League. You're talking about the Challenge Cup also starts that. They're doing a season-long tournament, not in addition to the regular games. Who are the favorites for this year? Because I know there was a lot of movement with players moving around.
It was crazy. So I mean, you still got your like typical like powerhouse teams that have been around, like your incumbent teams. You got Portland, you got San Diego. They're a newer franchise. I think this is actually only their third year, but they're stacked and they're good. But the biggest talk of this offseason was Gotham, the defending champions. So first of all, the fact that they were defending champions, and what was that, their first year in the league or second year, is they're very, very young. So
I want to might have been first, but it might be second. What's time?
Right. I want to say first, but I could be wrong. It could be second. But yeah, they're very, very young in the league. And so they came out of nowhere halfway through the season and just started killing it, right? And, like, they just clicked. And then in the off season, so they're calling them the mini women's national team because they have 8 women's national team players now on their team. There's a bunch of players in free agency this off season, and they were just like, "Yep, come home, you come here, yeah, let's make a deal. Come on over." Like they stole our like women's national team defender, like starting defender, like so it was like. It was a little crazy. It's kind of scary to see. So, like, they potentially have, they have like 90% of a starting lineup of women's national team players. So you're like, okay.
Are there salary caps in women's soccer?
Oh, I know it just got raised. I don't remember.
Because how can one team get everyone unless it's like the Yankees in baseball?
That's a good question. I don't remember there being a cap. I remember there's being incredible deals that were made this offseason for the first time ever. Like Mallory Swanson made, multi-million-dollar deal for 5 years because her husband's here on the Cubs, so she wasn't going nowhere. So thank God we still got her. But So there were some pretty lucrative deals that were made. I'm not sure if there's a cap though, because I don't think we ever had to have a cap. I know there's
it was like people were so concerned about the minimum
right.
playing.
I know there's a new bottom floor.
Okay.
But whatever that may be. But I don't know if there's a cap.
Okay.
So
probably not.
But there's two extremely high players. You got Mallory Swanson is the second highest player, I believe, paid player. And then the other one is, I believe, Mexican national team player, I want to say, or Brazilian, one of the two, that's playing in Houston this year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm thinking there's not a cap yet.
Probably not, yeah. What about Dennis Rodman's daughter? Isn't she get a pretty good...
Trinity is on fire recently. She's definitely getting up there. Again, she's still very young. She's like
20, 21.
I want to say a little older than that, maybe like 22, but she's very, very young. So give her another like solid year, and she's definitely going to be worth a lot.
She's 21.
Okay, yeah, because
she was born May 20th, so. But your babies won't be the same time because Kai's coming out way before that.
He's May 20th, so I'm 21st. Orange is 25th. Damn it, Kai, you better come earlier. I'm just saying.
Mayday.
Wow.
But yeah, so that was the biggest talk. They're just like, okay, Gotham's just stacking, shit up here. They're just going to try to run the league again. And it's going to be fun to watch because I'm a fan of Gotham. I was a fan of Gotham last year, even when they were like super underdogs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a cool name,
And their jerseys were like really sick too. So I'm just like, ooh, I want to buy that. Yep. And then to see them just kind of click at the end, I was definitely cheering for them. San Diego's another big talk because they have a lot of very, very good young talent in there. So they still have like Alex Morgan and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But they have Jaden Shaw, who is the 19-year-old. She was actually won the best player of the Gold Cup last week. Mm-hmm. As a 19-year-old, she scored 4 goals.
Wow.
Tournament. And so she just got her first cap on the national team in the fall after the World Cup when they were doing friendly games. Mm. And 6 months later, she's named best player of a major tournament. Like, that's pretty dope as a 19-year-old.
That's insane. Yeah.
She's from Southern California, so she's in front of her home crowd. She's living her best life.
Great.
Yeah. So that's a big thing going in. Portland's always been a powerhouse. They got Sophia Smith, one of our other best forwards, and then we're getting Mallory Swanson back. So like Chicago was real bad last year after Mallory got hurt. Mallory went from the best striker on the women's national team to tearing her patella tendon to Chicago Red Stars just like dying because she wasn't. So
I mean, it seemed like for the Red Stars last year, everything that could have gone wrong.
Oh yeah,
did go wrong. I mean,
absolutely.
the whole season was a complete dumpster fire.
Man, and then with the off season for Chicago Red Stars, I remember you commenting on one of my posts. You're like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" Like, yeah, it felt like the Chicago Red Stars cleaned house, and it felt like they cleaned house of the starters.
Yeah.
So like all of our majority of our starters are gone. So when I kept seeing them post these things, I was like, huh? Like I would like repost something like, why? Like Erin Wright, you had her on the show. She asked to leave.
I'm not surprised after what happened.
Right. And she was like the heart of the team for years, right? So like she so she went back home to Louisville. That's where her family's from. Mm-hmm. So I mean, good for her. Cool.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
I also know she just bought a huge house in Chicago, so that's interesting. But anyway, cool. But so she's gone, and then Yuki, she was one of our like literally the heart of our center mid. She's gone. Tiana Davidson, our national team center defender, gone. And you're just like, all these names are getting crossed off the list, and you're just like, who's left?
That's what I had said. Like one of your posts, I was like, what is happening? Like,
they definitely.
Who did we pick up? And for men that watch like NFL to compare this would be like what the Dallas Cowboys are doing right now in the offseason, where you're like, are you guys going to pick up anyone? Because the Cowboys sure ain't. And that's really what it feels like.
Yeah.
Stars.
You saw Gotham picking up, Emily Sonnet, Rose Lavelle, et cetera, from like the national team. And then all of a sudden you see Chicago, goodbye. And you're like,
yeah, it's like been a wonderful time.
You're like, can we get somebody, please?
What's going on with the Chicago team? Like, why is everyone wanting to leave? Is it just a bad, or not bad, but it's just like an unorganized organization, or?
Well, they got hit with a scandal.
So there's a lot of drama in women's soccer, and my cousin who works for ESPN was actually the videographer that helped break the story.
She was on the show.
It was fabulous, by the way. What was it called? Shit. Because I was like, Sherry, watch this. Look it up. I haven't seen these every time I talk about it, but it's fabulous. But anyway, so women's soccer has been plagued with like verbal abuse and sexual abuse.
Yes, I did. Okay.
And formerly the Chicago head coach, the old Chicago head coach was one of them.
Truth be told, the fight for women's professional soccer.
There it is. And I got a fun fact about one of the main people in the documentary. But and so management has been constantly changing.
Okay.
We're under new management again. We just hired a brand new head coach. We just hired the head coach of the Jamaica national team. So, and he has great experience on the men's and women's side. So we're hoping he's going to kind of be the game changer. So whatever mastermind we have coming through his brain, like we just kind of got to trust it because we have no other choice. So he believes in his draft picks. We got a couple really strong draftees there. But you never know. Like you feel like everyone you've known for years is gone. So it's kind of like those rebuilding years, and you're just like, all right, what's gonna happen? So you just kind of gotta trust the process here and just kind of see what happens.
I think last year was rock bottom. So
yes.
You know what I mean? I just don't think that's going to repeat itself.
Like rock bottom, when you have one of the best goalkeepers in the world.
Yeah, it's not very
and you give up 50 goals in a season. That is rock bottom. The best goal, one of the best.
But I mean, you got to think of how many shots on goal were there for
There's no
her versus every other goal. So you can't just look at, oh my God, she gave up 50. Well, how many did she stop? Like, let's look at the percentage of shots on goal.
Absolutely, but that's still an insane number. It was. But I can also confidence killer. Yeah, like to be the best goalkeeper in the world, literally, like top 2 goalkeepers, and you're 50 in on your national league, like your domestic league, which is supposed to be easier, competition, so hearsay, so it's like that's a confidence killer. So that's why during the Gold Cup, like this was a huge thing for Alyssa to come back from.
Yeah, she's incredible. Who are the Red Stars' first game against?
They are against one of the new expansion teams. So let me look at my schedule here. So Saturday they go to Utah to play the Utah Royals. So this is the Utah Royals first game ever.
Okay, hopefully we win.
They play 7 p.m. on what is that network? ION? ION? Is that how you say that?
ION. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's one of those like when you have a smart TV, you can just on Sling, or you can download. Yeah. That's all of them are now.
Yeah. Everything's an app now. And I'm glad we talked about that because I did hear you guys kind of mention that media deal that they got. This is huge. Like, it's really confusing, but it's huge, especially for like women's soccer, right? So like all Friday night matches are on Prime. Prime has ownership to that.
Okay.
And then there's Saturday weekday games. Weekday games. And then there's Saturday weeknight or Saturday night. Saturday day games and Saturday night games. So the Saturday day games are on like normal CBS, ESPN, or Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus has been the longest partner. And then there are Saturday night double headers that happen at like 7:30 and like 9:30 or 10 at night. And those are on the Ion network.
Okay.
So it's
That's kind of a lot of games.
And it is, so it's the regular season is 12.
So there's 121 games this year.
Each team though plays.
Each team
Is it like 6-15? Well, because then you have the Challenge Cup going through, which are not regular games.
So that's a great question.
How many teams are there?
So there are 14 teams now because we have the 2 new expansion teams in the Bay Area and in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
So each team, let's just look at it here. Let's just go to like Angel.
Frank, she's pregnant. She's feeling great.
Oh,
she's shining. She's glowing.
I'm actually just sweating. It's okay.
Carrying around this big ass baby. I can't wait to your baby shower, man. I'm just gonna give you hell the whole time and then feed you cake.
I can't wait to see the pictures to see how like humongous she actually is. Just kidding. I use the word humongous. I'm sorry.
Literally like she said, the baby is not in her body. It's just hanging out outside your body. Like at her gender reveal, like Jade is like the same amount pregnant. Jade, you can barely even tell. Like I don't know where the baby is. It's just so funny how some babies are
so cute and like pregnant cute, and I look like I'm about to freaking pop. I'm like, what the hell? And we're a week apart in our due dates. Like, come on, man.
That's insane.
It's so funny. Yeah. I can't imagine places you're sweating. I remember my yeah. No, Frank, this is a family show. I mean, it's not, but
that'll be a next episode.
We're gonna say that as a whole.
Look, if she gives birth on a Wednesday night, I might come through like, hey, just like the scene on Alien.
Just smile for the camera.
You look good, girl.
So I just counted Angels FC games, and they're at like 25 or 6. So, and that's not including any Challenge Cup matches.
Oh, that's not. Oh, no. Okay.
And so with that very regular schedule that they have started over the last 2 years, that also brought the concern of injuries, because I don't know if anyone's noticed or heard, but there's been an ACL epidemic all of a sudden, right? Like our biggest name stars are getting hurt.
Phaedra and I were talking about, Phaedra, you want to bring up what we were talking about with the ACLs?
Yeah, we were talking about just like soccer and in like lots of sports. I tore my ACL skiing and something back last year. And, we talk about just maybe lack of care. And I think I put this on the post, just lack of, and we especially with soccer, because like soccer players are just like, I'm fine. Like a lot of sports, a lot of athletes are just like, I'm fine, I'm good. So you go through a little bit of, PT or whatever, and then we're good. We're going to go back out and play just as hard. And with all that cutting and stuff, the injuries aren't properly cared for and the PT isn't there. And then all of a sudden you have all this dysfunction in the hip and then the ankles and the feet and the, everywhere. And so then that creates that
women's menstrual cycle too, depending
there's menstrual cycle.
Depending on where your estrogen levels are at certain points, you could have like, sometimes you have more joint elasticity at certain points of the cycle. I don't remember exactly when, but is there a correlation between when ACLs are happening versus women that aren't on birth control? And all this,
so you got all that, and then you got the clubs that don't have the funding for the proper care, right? So there's big concern raised because, and then on top of that, you got the turf conversation that's causing. So most soccer fields are grass. Mm-hmm. That's to play on, as we've all discovered through American football, right? Mm-hmm. So and then,
so that's not, you said that's not the best grass, isn't it? Or it is?
You want grass.
You want grass.
Okay.
Yep.
You do not want turf. But then so you double the women's games in a season, right? Because the season's from March to late November.
It's long.
So you double the games because you're adding in these tournaments to try to match the European leagues and whatnot, which is great, right? In theory, great. But we're not giving the recovery and the rest and the resources needed to have the athletes recover. So while many clubs do have stuff or people, it's not what it needs to be. And then on top of that, you got the players that play international. We have
Yep.
A ton of players from other countries that come to our league. Like, and I think they said, what was the stat? Like 70%. I just heard it recently too. 70% of the teams in the World Cup have a player or two that play in our league. So on top of that, you got those players going home on loan to their national teams throughout the year at any given time. And every time there's a tournament or whatever, they have to send them home. And then they're playing there. And then they come back and they play right away. There's no time to recover after like a grueling month-long tournament where you're 3 games, like 2 to 3 days apart, and whatnot. And so you started to see these crazy injuries. Like Mallory Swanson was awful. Like you just saw her whole leg just, and she was on fire. Like she scored 7 goals in 5 games, like going into the World Cup. And then just patella was just like, her old patella snap, because there's not the recovery time or the resources. Yeah. And so that was a big concern last year, also and a big criticism. So I'm really hoping that they figured something out with that. So,
yeah, Snacks, my other girlfriend that Emma knows, she fucked up her knee on turf as well playing. Yeah, it's something about you just doesn't plant. It doesn't give the way grass does.
Yeah.
Doesn't like grip, and I forgot all the science behind it, but I agree. Like, even in my college, like in my conference at the time, I think we were the best natural grass field. I think there was 3 out of like the 14 of us or whatever that had grass, and we definitely had the best well-kept grass field. So I appreciate that. But then we would go to like the other teams, and the game would be so much faster because then you're on turf and you're slipping and this and that. And we trained, all the time on grass. So like you always have that discrepancy also in soccer with how fast the ball moves. And
that's true. Absolutely.
So
in the middle of this season too, we happen to have a little event happening in Paris.
Yes.
The Olympics.
So that's a big talk too, because that's a smaller roster. So
what's the roster size for that one?
18.
18. I thought I saw that.
Well, in the World Cup and most major tournaments is 23. And then we have to narrow down to 18 now. So we're cutting the number of goalkeepers we're cutting the number of forwards, cutting the number of midfielders, right? And games can be decided on the subs. So you're like, who do you bring, right? And how do you decide who is the best 18, especially because the USA, since the World Cup, has been bringing up all the younger talent. One of the criticisms in the World Cup last fall was that they kept all the older players and they relied on them. And while in theory that seems really great, but then under old management, he was criticized because in one of the games he made 0 subs. And you're like,
I remember that. Yeah.
You're like, do you not trust your
it's running on tired legs.
Right. So you got these girls everyone playing 90 minutes, and they're gonna die out at the end. Like, these are the best teams in the world. Like, you can't play 90 straight minutes, right? And then do it again 2 days later.
Right, as a game.
Yeah.
What is the number of subs a team gets per game in the World Cup?
5.
5. That's a lot. That's half the people on the field. Is World Cup the same?
Yeah. Well, actually, in the Olympics, I'm not sure.
Sorry, World Cup.
Because it's either between 3 to 5. I got to look up that rule. I know in the Gold Cup we just had 5. So I don't know if that was a Concacaf rule. That's like a FIFA rule. Usually we follow FIFA rules, so I'm thinking it's 5. But again, Olympics has their own kind of special kind of thing going on that FIFA just kind of has to abide by. So I'm not sure, but I'm gonna just say
I'm gonna Google that right now.
Yeah, please do. But with smaller rosters, so you have 11 on the field, and then that's 7 on the bench. So it's
5.
like
it's 5.
Okay, so you can potentially almost sub your entire bench, which is kind of cool, for the people that get to go. Yeah. But then again, it's like, who do you decide? Because if you look at how United States, the interim manager managed the Gold Cup roster, so like every pool play game, everybody on the roster saw the field. at some point in the Gold Cup, which is really cool because, I mean, again, it's not a qualifying tournament. It's there to get the experience. It's here to find who the next impact players are, etc., going into the next World Cup cycle. But, you know, like, and that's an advantage. If you know you're playing a weaker team, which there's going to be a weaker team in our bracket somewhere, right? Then you want your younger players, you want your less experienced players to go and get that start, get that experience and whatnot. But then you got to decide who's that going to be, because we got a whole bunch of people on the edge. You have your guaranteed players. You got the Alyssa Nair, you got Lindsay Horan, you got Naomi Girma, you got Emily Fox. Those are a given. But then we have such a young like forward line. So Alex Morgan's on the edge, right? She wasn't even invited to the Gold Cup. Oh, she came to the Gold Cup to cover an injury. Mia Fischel, who's another young player, tore her ACL in training. Oof. So Alex got called in the day before the first game. Luckily for Alex, because she had a real rough 2023. She didn't score she scored like 1 goal the whole year in all the games. Right. So she wasn't even invited. She came in and she showed out. She played every single game, played like through the entire playoffs. She was the impact player in our starting line next to Jaden Shaw. But it's interesting because she wasn't even invited. So that's something. So she's on the edge because of her age and how she was playing in previous years. So hopefully she made a case for herself here. And then you got Jaden Shaw, our powerhouse of a 19-year-old that emerged in the last 6 months. Mallory Swanson's healthy again. She trained with them for the Gold Cup, but wasn't on the roster, but she was at training camp. You got Trinity Rodman, who has made a very good name for herself. I'm thinking she's going to be a guaranteed player.
I would say she's probably guaranteed.
Right. But then you got Lynn Williams, who's always a reliable person, but she's always off the bench. That's just her role. So, like, she's going to be a bench player that comes. Has she started games? Yes. But in big games? No. And then let's see. So, like, our midfield, that's been so awful for the last, like, all 2023. And then I think Twyla Kilgore, finally figured out the formula in the midfield. But that's also young players. So we got Sam Coffey, who was left off the World Cup roster controversially, and came in and was like, did all the dirty work. Like, she did all the dirty work. And you're like, wow, where has she been? You know, like, why wasn't she there? And then you have Lindsay Horan, who's the heart of the team. She's a guarantee. And then they had to find who's going to be that third spot. So these are Sam Coffey, and then there's another spot for our defensive midfield positions. Those, like I said, those do all the dirty work. So you have Coffey showing out the whole tournament. And then they bring in a player that we've never heard of before. Yeah, so we bring in Corbin Albert, who's from Chicago. She's been playing at Paris Saint-Germain. She's 21 years old. She got brought in because our new head coach, who starts in June, said, bring her in. She's an American citizen. You know, she's from Chicago. Bring her in. She's a stud. She came in and she balled out. Incredible. She played all 90 minutes of the championship as like literally her 5th game ever, you know, like for the United States team. She balled out. So I'm really hoping she's there. But then you got the back line, and you're like, okay, we got Naomi, and then I'm going to say Tierna is our other center D that's going to be like confirmed. That's our ex-Red Star player, who was also left out of the World Cup, ironically, right? So like, then we got Emily Fox, who just signed with Arsenal. She's on fire. But then we got that other outside spot that often subs. So we have Crystal Dunn, who's the veteran, but she's getting faded out. She made a case for herself in the Gold Cup, but she's getting faded out. And then you got Casey Kruger, who's an ex-Red Star. She was left off the World Cup because she was still recovering from childbirth. But she made a case for herself. But then you got the youngin from Florida State, who was the 4th draft pick, or 4th pick of the draft last year, who came in and showed out in the last 6 months. So you're like, okay, we can only pick like 5 defenders or whatever. So who do we go with? Because do you want the young kids, or do you want like the old faithfuls? But are they really going to be old faithful? You know, because they weren't in the World Cup. So what are we going to do?
So what age? Like, how long is a woman's career in soccer usually? Then
So it very ranges. So we've seen women's national team players play up to 38 or more.
That's a little more.
That's
accepted.
a young age. 38 is so young.
In theory, right? But yeah, so you
late 20s, early 30s.
We have a bit of an older team.
Yeah.
And we've been known for that, and it's worked for us until recently.
Okay.
So I'd say, what did they say? Our average in the Gold Cup was 26, which is still considered old.
Yeah.
Or older, so I think we were around 26, 27 average age for the Gold Cup roster of the 23 players.
So, technical question for you. When you say you can have 18 on the roster, does that mean they can only bring 18 total to Paris? Or can they have 18 in the game, and can they bring subs if people get injured?
Good question.
I know track and field, they'll sometimes, for some of these, they'll have people ready to fly out, like if someone has to dry up.
So this is my best educated guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that there are people on standby. Like, for example, Alex Morgan was ready to fly out. Right. So, like, I know there's players on standby to be on the next flight out if needed, But I know.
But you can't, like, put 18 in for one game and then a different 18 for the next unless someone gets pulled for,
That's a great question because, like I said, Olympics kind of plays by
their own rules.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know 18 dress.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not sure if they're allowed to bring like practice players. I'm not sure. I think they did. They don't in the World Cup. Everyone of the no. Let me take that back. I believe in the World Cup there's 2 or 3 not dressed of the 23-man roster. So like 20 dressed or something. So something stupid like that. But I'm pretty sure only 18 are allowed to go.
Okay.
And then you got your ones at home saying like, okay, someone get hurt so I can go.
It's kind of fucked up, but
we all do it, okay? We know the thing. We're all competitors, right? As much as you don't want to see someone go down, you want to be called. This is your whole life's work, And then to be like a veteran player, like we're probably gonna have a lot of World Cup players left off of this roster. So
the thing is too, like you said, we've had so many players with so much experience at that level. It is like how much of it is going off of what they've done in the past years for the team, and how much of it is what your current play is today.
Yeah,
this year.
And then it's interesting because like the players that we have playing over in Europe, they're halfway through their season already.
Oh, that's right, because we do have people over there too. Yeah.
And the domestic players and our National League haven't even started season yet. They're still in preseason. So like it's very interesting because you got like, okay, we got people in full shape, who've been playing for months, and you got people who are just getting started. And so like a lot of times you judge by performance in club versus performance at friendlies and whatnot. And so like that's also something you got to play with. And then on top of that, we have another tournament coming up before the Olympics.
Oh, so really?
We have our tournament that we host, that U.S. Soccer hosts, the She Believes Cup. So that is coming up in April, I believe. Soon. Yes, it's usually in February and March, but they moved it back because of the Gold Cup and whatnot. So we have the She Believes Cup coming up. And they shortened it because of the Olympics and stuff. That's everything that's happening. It's usually a 6-team tournament. It's 4 teams this year. So I know it's us, it's Canada, it's Japan, and I want to say Brazil is the 4th team. Okay. And so instead of doing like a full round robin tournament like we usually do, I believe everybody gets 3 games, and then there's like a 3rd place in a championship.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, no. Let me take that back. Because of the busyness of the year internationally, there's only 4 matches.
Oh.
So everyone plays like 2 games or whatever, and then they go into the top 2 and the bottom 2 or something. I don't know. So yeah, it's very shortened. But again, those are one of those like kind of just like promotional tournaments. We do it every year. We started that back, I want to say 2015. It was started by the women's empowerment movement back when we were going into the momentum of when we were supposed to win the 2015 World Cup. We ended up getting second. We lost to Japan. And so it's inspired by that U.S. team's national movement of like women empowerment and on and off the field, soccer, not soccer related. She believes is actually like a nonprofit organization that they partner with. And they do a lot of stuff off the field and communities and whatnot. So every year they do a small tournament to kind of like boost that morale and whatnot. So it's kind of like cliff notes of that tournament. So we have that, and that's going to be like one of the last looks before choosing the roster.
Because it's not a tryout. It's just hand selected by the coaches, right?
Yeah. So, and that's also before our new head coach comes, who's hands-on from England. And so she's going to be working with the interim head coach, and they're going to select their roster for the She Believes Cup. And then after the She Believes Cup, they have to select their 18 for June. Or July or whatever the Olympics start. So
it's
July,
August. July?
I think it's July.
Yeah.
Like
so there's a lot of stuff happening this spring.
Yeah.
So that's what I was like, how do I
prepare? It starts July 26th through Sunday, August 11th. Okay,
there you go. Yeah.
So we were all right. August and July. So kind of say final question, but who is the US's biggest competition, do you think, this year in Paris?
Oh God, teams are still qualifying.
That's
have to look. So we had,
but let's be real. Like Canada is going to be.
So Canada's the reigning champions. Now they just lost their veteran best player to retirement. So the fight that they put in at the Gold Cup was really great to see. But it's interesting because some of the best teams in Europe didn't qualify because their federation can only send 2, instead of 4 or 5. So and
does the home country get a team in?
Only 12 countries qualify in the world.
So there's no home team, like they get a spot automatically.
Yes, I think France automatically has their spot.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's 11 teams from the whole world that can qualify, unlike the 36 or whatever for the World Cup, right? So it's very hard to get in the Olympics. So you saw, I think England got knocked out, which is insanity.
Wow.
Like there's some big European countries that you're like, wow. Well, that's because their competition is so tough. Like
I see, yeah,
we're the powerhouse of Concacaf, us and Canada. So it's going to literally be us or Canada. Mexico's stepping it up. They did beat us in the Gold Cup. Mexico is coming around, which is really awesome to see under their new management.
Yeah.
But still, so it's like.
And Spain have a berth from winning the World Cup. Is that like an auto berth?
I think they got the automatic qualification for that.
Yeah, I'll say because there's like a little carryover.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you think Spain's also going to be a top team going in as well? Spain.
Oh yeah, they just won their federations tournament. They just hosted because the World
Cup wasn't like a one and done surprise. They're here to stay.
No, they're still on and kicking ass. Like so like every federation just had like a tournament. So they tend to do it all at the same time ish. And so I do remember seeing a headline that they just won their tournament or whatever it's called. So
I read some article. I think I read that same article about them looking to defend the world, not the Olympic Cup, but like the World Cup thing. I was just kind of asking you that leading question, Emma, so you can talk about Spain.
Absolutely, they want to defend.
Right, so we have Spain, we have Canada. Is Japan still good for women?
Yes, they are, and they're qualified. So here's the list for the teams that have qualified. And when was this article written? February 29th. So the women's teams that have qualified are obviously France, US, Canada, Brazil, Colombia. Ooh, girl, that Gold Cup Colombia game, that's a whole conversation to have. New Zealand, Spain. New Zealand, that's interesting. Good for them. Spain, Japan, Australia, and Germany. So you don't see the traditional England, or the Netherlands, another power.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they always
and
have.
It's like they gotta add more teams. Like you just have to make it bigger, but you can't the Olympics because you got every sport, But like it's crazy to see these big names not there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you got to be first in your area.
So basically. Colombia's women's team, that's like a newer one too, because it was always Colombia was good for the men's side.
Yeah. So
back historically, 80s, 90s era, but the women have not been good until
the World Cup.
Say pretty recent, as in I guess last year.
Yeah, so they put on the showing in the World Cup. I know they made it to the quarterfinals. I think they lost in the quarterfinals, if I remember correctly. And they have, thanks to an emerging star that's also like 19, 20 years old, one of their forwards. She was incredible. But so we played them. They were invited to the Gold Cup this year because it's not a qualifying tournament.
Right.
And we played them in our first playoff match. Girl, that was a shit show.
Yeah, that sounds legit.
It was a shit show. They're a bunch of bullies. And like to the point where like we're getting all the yellow cards defending ourselves. They didn't get a single card till like later on in the game. We had 3 yellow cards like going into the freaking halftime.
No way.
It was crazy. They're insanity. Like it was literally like give these girls an Oscar because you're like, okay. Now they're a great team. They're a tough team, but you're like, why are you falling? Like, why are you acting so much? So like literally like we earned a PK, right? And so you see Alex Morgan, not a fighter at all, right? She's up in these girls' faces, like talking shit, and you're just like, "Oh, Alex, okay, I see you, girl." Like, and then she'll talk shit, and then you got Trinity Rodman, who's kind of like the Bash Brothers, or like the Mighty Ducks version of the women's national team. She's coming in here like pushing them and shit. She got a yellow card, but yeah, so it's like, and Colombia plays mind games. They're really good at the mind games.
Ooh.
So with PKs, for example. You hog the ball while you're arguing with the ref contesting the PK. And while you're holding the ball from the team that gets to shoot, you have players going stomping on the PK mark to mess up the grass. So Alex Morgan steals the ball from the goalie and stands like a statue like this over the PK mark so they couldn't walk all over it. Meanwhile, she's surrounded by Colombia players arguing with the ref in her ear. And she's just standing there like,
I gotta find. Can you find some video of this? Because I did not see this.
So she's like a bodyguard right there, just holding spot because they know what they do. They watch film, they research their opponents, right? So, and at one point, Trinity runs in and she's like, "Get out of the way!" And Alex didn't even take the shot, so she's standing there for 5 minutes. Holding the ball until they could clear these Colombian players out, and then hands it off to Lindsay Horan once like it's able to like get set up.
That's funny.
Mind games weren't done for specific moment. So right as Lindsay goes to take the kick, one of the Colombia players, because everyone has to be outside the goal box. One of the Colombia players runs into the goal box in front of the PK line to play one last mind game. And at that point, she should have been carded.
You don't get carded for that?
She didn't. At that moment.
But is that a cardable offense?
That's a cardable offense.
You should definitely card someone for that. That's
fucked
up.
For that.
Oh, that's super fucked up.
Right.
Why did
So we ended up scoring it. It really didn't matter. All that we wasted 5 minutes of the game, and we ended up scoring. But yeah, it was like that all night. They were falling, they were flailing, they were hitting hard, so we hit hard back, and then we get the call, and so like we were fighting them and the ref like the whole time. It was wild. It was such a wild game. Like,
wow.
You watch the highlights for that. Like, there was one when Alex got carded. She it was off a corner kick. And she stands standing from the goalie. Now it's illegal to block the goalie's view, but you can fuck with them. I fuck with them. Like that's what I teach my girls to do: fuck with the goalie and then get out the way, right? So like, she stands from the goalie and then she spun out, so, like just did a little spinning run to like go to her back post position where they aim for her. And one of the defenders who was trying to body her up tried to push into her as she was spinning out, and she didn't touch the goalie. The defender fell.
The defender ran into the goalie. Yeah.
But they gave Alex the penalty or the discipline, right? So it's like, yeah, it was wild. It was just a whole bunch of bullshit, a lot of arguing, a lot of pushing. And like I haven't seen a game like that since the men played USA, or I'm sorry, the men played Mexico last year in their Gold Cup match. And in that game, the jersey got ripped off and 2 red cards were given to USA. So I'm like, this is the women's version of that match. Like,
nice.
So yeah, definitely go look that game up because that was a fun one.
I'm gonna check it out.
I love it. I know, right?
Definitely gonna check it out.
So it'll be interesting to watch them in the Olympics this year.
I love it. Well, Emma, thank you so much for coming on and giving us
thank you
knowledge that you say you don't know. I mean, you're definitely our resident soccer expert. I appreciate you so much coming on,
of course.
And congratulations on the little alien invader in your belly.
Baby.
Yeah,
that's my
congratulations.
godson.
Thank you.
He's going to be the cutest little creature.
Next time I come on, he'll be right here.
I know, I can't wait. And then we'll talk about working out post having a baby.
God, the bounce back. So. I'm dreading, but I need it.
Bounce back.
The bounce back. I love it. But all right, Emma, I know you just got home. You haven't settled in yet. Blah blah blah. Go kiss your doggies. Go kiss your cat. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yay!
Thank you. Nice
See you
to
next
meet
weekend.
you.
Nice to meet you too.
Bye.
Bye. Oh,
and
so
that
great.
is Emma. Isn't she the best?
That was great. Yes, I love her energy, especially when talking. And she got me into it. Now I'm just now I need to watch Columbia play. I need to watch all these teams.
Some of I've read the headlines are kind of sob. I didn't actually realize how much of a shit show it was. So yeah,
but that's what I mean. Women's sports in general. I mean, we get snarky and catty, and we play mind games, and it's funny. That's why I definitely like watching women's sports. I think a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm definitely looking forward. I would say, obviously Olympics, track is the thing that I'm going to be watching most. But I mean, honestly, women's soccer is obviously, gymnastics and swimming, but women's soccer is one of my favorite. It always has. I just love watching women's soccer, and especially the last few go-rounds, as the rest of the world kind of catches up to the U.S.
Right.
You hate to see the U.S. lose, but it makes the whole experience of the tournament that much more interesting because there is so much more. But sometimes you'll have the thing where the U.S. will win 15-0 in the first round. It's
right.
It's incredible to see. So.
There's that it's like a give and take because you want to see a good game, you want to see a good matchup, but yeah, exactly. But by 15, you're okay, well, yay, we're gonna watch them win again.
Yeah, and it's it makes it interesting for the knockout games, for the bronze medal game. It just makes everything that much more interesting. So as we get closer and closer to the Olympics, man, we might just have to have a full Olympic preview day, right before.
Yeah,
everything.
That'll be fun.
I'm excited. I'll be talking about track.
Absolutely. Yay.
All right, my love. On that note,
this has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production.